Okay, let's go in. I feel like my lights are weird. Let's go in.
You look fine. Yeah.
Thank, thank you. Thank you. It's fucking time that somebody said it. I'm trying really hard not to spit out my tea there. All right, let's do it. Hello and welcome to Flanagan's Wake, a Doof Media podcast that has spent the last year haunting Mike Flanagan. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me as always, it's my co-host Matt Freeman. Matt, this is our overview episode, so I'm not going to do any jokes about you and who you are as a person.
I'm just the guy watching a show.
Just a guy
with you.
Watching a show with his friend.
That's right.
I was trying to make a joke there. It didn't
come
really
together.
Work.
That's okay.
This week on the show, we are taking one final look at The Haunting of Bly Manor. And hey, we're also taking a one final look at the Haunting series and also a one final look at the first year of Flanagan's Wake. We're doing it all in this episode, Matt. It's the big 5-0. It's the 50th episode spectacular. It also happens to be our last episode of 2025. It's all coming together at the same time. It's almost as if we planned this, but we definitely did not. It's just the way it works.
Yeah, that's a good... Yeah, we totally planned it.
All right, so we're going to jump into Bly Manor. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the past year. And then we've got some mailbag questions we have to answer from some of our listeners. So it's going to be a fun overview episode. Let's get right into it, Matt.
All right.
Just to remind people, the end of the year schedule is going to be a little bit different. I believe this episode is coming out right before Christmas, if not on Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas, everyone. And this is going to be our last episode of the year. So we will not be back next Thursday. We're taking that week off. We will be back on the 8th of January for our first episode, covering episode 1 of Midnight Mass. So enjoy the week off, everyone. I know we will. Hope you all have a good Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
And New Year.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
All right, Matt. The Haunting of Bly Manor. 9 episodes. We spent 9 weeks plus 5 on Mr. Henry James and all his short stories. It's been a week since we talked about the finale of the show. Where are you at with this? How are you feeling about The Haunting of Bly Manor? How are you feeling about this segment of our little project here?
Well, I kind of want to address what you just said. I mean, basically for 14-ish weeks, we've been talking about Henry James.
Yeah.
Right? That's and yes, it's the TV show was by Mike Flanagan and many other delightful artists, but it was all about the Henry James stories in a way that, as we discussed many times while discussing the show specifically, resonated on a deep level with the themes that Henry James was interested in. So I feel like we've been just dwelling in Henry James's universe for like a quarter, basically.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. It's unique. It's not even something that I anticipated when we were getting into this project. I think I barely had any awareness that there was maybe an adaptation of Turning of the Screw that we were going to discuss at some point. But
you did it again. It's the turn of the screw.
The turn of the screw. And, I had no awareness of Henry James in the first place. Like, I just didn't know who that guy was. So this was really cool, getting educated on Henry James and being brought into his world via first his stories and then the adaptations of his stories. So I'm just choosing to answer your question by reflecting on the both tonal and imaginative landscape of Henry James that we've been living in for all this time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to refresh all our listeners, like when building out the schedule for the show, I went back and forth on whether we should even read these short stories at all, right? Like I knew this was an adaptation of The Turn of the Screw, and it was always in the plan that we were going to read The Turn of the Screw, but there was a version of this show in which we just read that story and then carried on with the show, just like we did for The Haunting of Hill House. And I really went back and forth on the names. Like I saw and noticed that the names of the episodes were based on these short stories, and I was like, I didn't want to, in my planning, like watch the entire show again just to determine whether or not, because I kind of would have had to watch the entire show again and read all the short stories outside of the scope of the show in order to definitively like know if this was a choice that I should make. And at the end of the day, I just kind of rolled the dice and said, sure, let's do it, even if it doesn't end up paying off in the way that I hope it is. I think it'll still be a fun experiment. And one thing I can absolutely say, on top of this show's very lengthy list of accomplishments, I think you're absolutely right that it as an adaptation of both those stories in particular and of Henry James writ large, pretty staggering accomplishment. Like, yeah. This is not a guy that I think is easy to adapt, right?
Yeah.
I know The Turn of the Screw was adapted into that movie The Innocents, where I think a lot of the imagery and idea for this, the core of this story came from, but so much of the theming and the ideas and the resonance of those stories to me were just found all over this thing, all over these 9 episodes. And like, am I glad we did it? A million times.
Yeah.
Like, if we didn't, and then one day years later I decided on a whim to pick up Henry James and read it, I would be furious at past me for not making us read these short stories.
I think on top of that, what I realized, I think only recently, after really having watched this whole Bly Manor show and kind of digesting it and reflecting on the Henry James stories, is, you know, Mike Flanagan has certain storytelling sensibilities that we've talked about quite a bit, obviously. He has certain things that he likes to tell stories about. And I think this show, and to a large degree, The Haunting of Hill House, is a place where he gets to be a romantic. And because Henry James is a romantic, right? It's a dark, wistful, gothic romance, but it is a romance. You know, there's a kind of idealism to it, right? And I think that is captured in both of these TV shows, and maybe even more so in this one, because we have the idealized romance specifically for Danny and Jamie. And I think it's cool to see this material bring out that facet, I guess, of Mike Flanagan, the guy who we're primarily discussing.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely true. And I think you're right. It's focused on more in Bly because Bly is, as the characters say, a love story.
Mm-hmm.
I like thinking back on and reflecting on our 9 episodes. And I think with the Jamie and Danny stuff, I think we did a very good job talking about them and what they represent. One thing I just wanted to say is, on reflection, is like, how much, like, we talked about good examples of love and bad examples of love. I don't think, we spent a lot of time talking about Peter Quint and Rebecca Jessel and exactly why their version of love was so broken and terrible, right? I don't know if we spent enough time talking about how Flanagan and his team shows that the Danny and Jamie relationship is this actually like almost idealized version of what a relationship could be and should be. You know, in this 10-year or however long it ended up actually being kind of vignette of their lives together as Danny slowly waits for her beast in the jungle, we get to see how they like interact with each other and how they deal with their problems and how they support each other. And like, one thing, I mean, we didn't even mention it, but like, they open a flower shop, right? They have like, that's their job, is they own this little flower shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find that adorable, that like, this is not Danny's thing. Really, this was Jamie's thing. And but she wanted to support her in that way. Meanwhile, Jamie is supporting her in this kind of constant fear and uncertainty she has about her life, and watching them at different moments support each other or take the next step, or like, I don't know, it's this little vignette. Like, we don't get too much time with them, tragically, sadly, but the ways in which the show really demonstrates that these two people are partners, that they support each other, that they love each other, that they push each other to be the best possible versions of themselves. All the things that Peter Quint did not do for Rebecca Jessel. I think that's so important, and I wish we had harped on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think maybe it just takes some time to stand back from the whole thing. And, you know, one of the things that I did just before sitting down with you is I literally just like read through the whole summary of the whole series again, because sometimes you need to do that, right? To like stand back and like unfocus your eyes and see the whole show, because when you watch it the way we've been watching it, in pieces spread out over time, it's like you can't see the forest for the trees sometimes. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That is a critical through line to what the show's doing. It's throughout the whole show, and we choose to end the show with it. I love the idea of a flower shop, particularly because we have this metaphor of flowers as being like difficult to take care of and raise, and this being an almost thankless task, but at least you get this like one moment of beauty from the flowers before they inevitably die, which all flowers do. And Jamie handing us this metaphor, it's like that's also what people are, that's also what relationships are.
Yeah.
And they're creating a flower shop where they're continually doing that, for a living. They're putting effort into growing something, even though it's inevitably going to die. That's what they're doing.
Yep. I mean, it's perfect. It's beautiful. And the idea that, again, the way Danny proposes to Jamie is by, hiding the ring in the roots of a plant, which I like gesturing towards the root of everything is our love. Our love is at the root of it. And that's where she puts the Claddagh ring that they end up wearing throughout their lives and deaths. Mm-hmm. Because we see Danny is still wearing her Claddagh ring, even in her ghost form, with her hand on her lover's shoulder.
Yeah.
I read, and I haven't researched to see whether this is accurate or not, so maybe I shouldn't be saying it on a podcast as if I'm a source of authority on it, but I did read that in the initial planning of the story, that it was not going to be a gay relationship. It was not going to be two women. That actually, I think the actor who played Peter Quint, Oliver Jackson Cohen, auditioned for the Jamie role first, and then they kind of retooled what it was going to be after that. Obviously one thing we haven't really talked about at all over the course of the 9 episodes is the fact that these are two women, right? And I think it's because essentially it's irrelevant outside of the one episode with Edmund in which he refuses to possibly understand why she would not be interested in him at all. But obviously, like, this is a show that has a gay relationship at its center, and I know a lot of people love it for that. My sister's gay, and she, like, it is not often, it's becoming increasingly often, but still sadly not often enough that you get to see these relationships kind of center stage of a show, and that is one of the reasons she was very moved by it. And also that it just treats it as like, this is just a thing between two people and everything else is irrelevant. And I think maybe I consciously tried to not pay any attention to that outside of the Edmund portion of it, because, like, who cares? Like, I mean, I almost like regret bringing it up now, but I just thought here in the final episode it was worth bringing up that, like, this is something that, to just talk about Buffy once again. There's a lesbian relationship kind of at the core of that show. Mm-hmm. That show struggled with the censors and what they were and were not allowed to do with that relationship in the early 2000s. And it's just like, hey, let's pat ourselves on the back slightly about how far we've come here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we can just make this decision and do this, and it's totally fine. And
yep.
And not just make the decision, but then play it fully, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's very cool. So for some reason, I never had this thought before this moment when you were talking about like the possibility of different characters being played by different actors. But I thought about this. Our Stephen King audience might appreciate this, but I thought about Desperation and The Regulators, and how these are. I mean, if you don't know the reference, this is gonna probably not be very interesting. But it's like two Stephen King books.
Explain it briefly. Yeah.
It's two Stephen King books where he wrote both of them, but then like he had one of them be written by Richard Bachman, his alter ego, and the gimmick with these two books is like they're really quite different books in ways that feel very distinct, but also all of the like character names between the two books are the same, but it's not like, oh, that's the same character in that other book. It's like this is like an alternate dimension, a different interpretation of this other character. I mean, I think the most straightforward interpretation of it is Stephen King pretending that he had one idea of how to do this story, and his alter ego, Richard Bachman, had a different idea, sort of starting from the same constituent parts, and went in a different direction. And so they end up feeling very different. They both kind of involve this like demonic entity, but even the expression of the demonic entity is different in the two. And I just think that's a funny thing to think about as like The Haunting of Bly Manor and The Haunting of Hill House as being The Regulators and Desperation, because they're like they're very related, but clearly it's not just like these are two stories set in the same universe. It's more abstract than that. It's like here's two riffs on kind of adjacent but not identical concepts, and they actually feel quite different. They feel quite different tonally, and they're saying very different things thematically. I mean, in every way that this is a Henry James story, you know, like that one was not. Right, that one was channeling this whole other energy that was also great.
A Jacksonian energy, a Shirley Jackson energy. Like,
yes,
completely agree. I never thought about the Desperation Regulators connection, but that's so fun because it also like his stable of actors here playing very different parts, but not with the same names, but obviously like
same faces.
Same, yeah, like it is so funny because again, when I first saw these two shows, I didn't really understand the extent at which Mike Flanagan likes to, and indeed kind of consistently works with the same people over and over again. And so I thought the idea of casting the same people in Bly Manor that were in Hill House, almost not everyone, but like a vast majority of them, was like a gimmick of the Haunting of Blank series. Like this was something, and like I think to a certain extent it was, but it's also just, you know, Mike Flanagan likes working with the same people over and over again. But it does impress upon you something, especially when watching it for the first time, not really realizing that the ways in which these characters played by the same actors are very different from each other, the ways in which they're the same. It invites comparison between the two shows and what they are trying to do and what they are not trying to do, in a way that I just think is really fun. And it's like there is part of me that mourns the fact that we never got like a third season of this, a third version of this, because like you know 2 is great, but three is the best number. So getting to see 2 sets the pattern and 3 can upend it. You know, so just getting to see what that might have looked like. I think we have a mailbag question from a listener around that central concept coming up, but. Man, it's just it's really cool, and it's really cool seeing like it is a perfect representation of how we talk about Mike Flanagan as this master adapter or whatever, especially as it relates to Stephen King. But looking at these two shows and how different they feel and look, and the different things they talk about really does sell the idea that like this isn't just a Mike Flanagan affect. This is like he understands the core of the thing he's adapting, and he's gonna lean towards it when he's putting these things together.
Mm-hmm. Love that. So we were talking about the romance angle there, and I thought maybe that would be a good segue to the other thematic through line that we've talked about a bit, which was also something that was in both shows. So that's another segue, which is the idea of like caretaking and the sort of caretaking relationship. And I had a thought. This is one of those thoughts I had where it felt original, and then I was like, "Am I sure that we didn't like also talk about this on air?" And I'm just pretending that I'm inventing it, which is something that I do all the time, where I'm like, "Here's an original thought," and I actually just am repeating something that I heard or said before. Point is, the thought was like, we talked a lot about pathological caretaking, meaning, caretaking relationships that have gone sour due to the person being taken care of no longer even really appreciating it, and the person doing the caretaking just resenting it. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, like, this is kind of it's kind of the other side of the coin of this possessive love theme, which is also in this story. Maybe other side of the coin isn't the right metaphor exactly, but it's like the other end of the spectrum, because possessive love is like this. It's a relationship where you're wanting to like take everything about the person and own it, and the pathological caretaking is like you're giving and giving and giving, and it's never enough. Yeah. So one of them is like you're taking and it's never enough, and the other is like you're giving and it's never enough, and there's no satisfaction. There's no no beauty arises out of this. There's only resentment and bitterness and asymmetry and a feeling of unfairness. That felt like, as soon as that clicked in my head, I was like, oh yeah, those seem like very related concepts. So
yeah, I mean, you're like watching my brain like construct what you're saying, and I'm just like, it's making me smile, because I think you're so right that this idea of, and I think what I've kind of been trying to do over the course of the last 9 weeks is like, we definitely had these themes of possession, beautifully literalized via the actual possession of the story, and we had these clear themes of caretaking. And the one thing I was never able to do is kind of say, okay, but does the show take these things and like join them together to make one larger idea or theme or concept or whatever? And I didn't quite have that in my head yet. And this just kind of perfectly does it for me, because yeah, I mean, like we talked about is the show is showing us all these different examples of love and affection, and we have at the core of it, we have our two main characters. We have the love story between Jesse and Danny, and I mean, just like as you're saying this, it's like, love will fail if it's all give, love will fail if it's all take, and then in the middle of that, you have Jesse and Danny, who are both giving and taking in equal measure, and are also have a responsible and mature enough relationship to recognize the moments when you do have to give a little bit more than you take, and moments you have to take a little bit more than you give, and how these things are not perfectly always symmetrical, but it giving and taking is a give and take, right? And yeah, I mean, like the idea of caretaking and possession, like those are the poles of each of these things. I think that's perfectly said, and yeah, that unlocks everything for me.
Yeah, I definitely, like, the more I think about it, I mean, the moment when Perdita murders her sister, she thinks the word enough. And while there is no like exactly matching moment, I kind of think about the moment when we sort of finally see Rebecca Jessel act on her rejection of Quint. And she doesn't say the word enough, but you kind of feel like, okay, this man has possessed enough of me. He has literally taken my life, and it wasn't enough for him. Mm-hmm. And now, it's enough for her. So that's the other side of it is like when one person sometimes does have the option to say enough, but sometimes it can be too late. I mean, I think in both of those cases, it's too late, actually, right? She says, Rebecca says enough when she's already dead, and Perdita says enough when she's so overwhelmed that she's literally killing her sister, and she's gone beyond the brink. So yeah, I like and then in contrast, like you just said, there's the equal giving and taking of this beautiful relationship, and also not asking too much, right? Like I go back to the scene where Danny is obviously still freaking out about the ghost that's haunting her, and Jamie essentially interprets this as like, you're not ready for this yet. And it's not like she's saying like, you better figure your shit out or you're not going to be able to be with me. She's just like, I can see that you're not cool with this, and so we're not going to do this. And like it's her just kind of like politely but firmly stepping back. And then Danny does, actually Danny like literally just sorts it out. And then she kind of shows up and is like, I am actually ready for this. And then things are able to move forward. But it's after this process of like patient negotiation and meeting in the middle.
Yeah, and respect and all the things that you want. And yeah, I mean, like, it's not as if these two people are just like perfect individuals who didn't make any mistake and handle this whole thing perfectly, because I think that would be ultimately unbelievable and inhuman in a way. They do kind of bungle the start of the relationship in a way that's like cute and adorable, but at the core of it, yeah, is this level of respect and appreciation that allows them to go through their own shit, because they both do have shit that they're carrying into their relationship.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, it's quite remarkable, actually. Like, I think we get a comment, and I might repeat this again when we get to the question, but we got a comment from someone saying they were a little bit surprised that the Edmund character just kind of disappeared from the show at one point, and that we didn't really get any resolution with that part. And it's because he doesn't matter anymore. Like, he stops haunting her. She is able to break free of his post-death possession of her. And so there was really nothing to, in a similar way that we talked about last week with the fact that there is no Rebecca Jessel and Peter Quint final moment of resolution between them. It's like, because she's free now, and there doesn't need to be on either of those parts. So yeah, I mean, like, could maybe there have been a version of the story where we like finally understood that Edmund was gone forever in her mind? There could have been, but I love that it's not dramatic, actually.
Yeah.
That like the last moment we actually see Edmund is a moment of her kind of fighting against the realization that perhaps he'll never leave her, that she's standing by the fire and she even throws the glasses into the fire, but he's still standing there in front of her. And then we just never see him again because she's working past that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I always like to push it to what is this a metaphor for, right? Like, what are these ghosts a metaphor for? And I think in Edmund's case, him haunting her is really the guilt of not just the role that she feels she played in his actual death, but the idea that this whole snarl of emotions, I think, of like, man, I really kind of like, I feel like I led this guy on and I contributed to his death, and, I deserve to be alone because I'm the kind of person who would do that to someone. And like, it seems like there's like a whole snowball of stuff that is connected to Edmund, more so than just like he got out of the car because he was mad at me and then he got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that she's working her way through the first parts of the show, as she begins to like make friends with these people and get to know Jamie and kind of, find purpose in her role teaching these kids. I think this was a thing from the first episode, but it's like, why is she here? Wingrave basically asks her, like, what's the catch? Like, what's actually going on here? And she's not quite honest with him, but I think the truth is she's trying to find some meaning and sanity and grounding in her life to kind of remind her who she is, because she's just so dominated by this guilt. And that is represented by the mirror ghost, but it's not literally, oh, there's a mirror ghost chasing me. It's, oh, I'm tormented by guilt and self-loathing over this, not just the death, but this, tragic thing that happened. Just the whole thing about it is tragic. So
one of the things I really appreciate about the show is the way it never feels the need to spell some of this out for you. I mean, I think the show does a very good job at spelling a lot of the major themes out for you, but like while you were talking, I was thinking about the moments in the Edmund backstory episode where it clearly shows the ways in which he is a little possessive and he doesn't understand her. And there's never any moment where Danny goes like, he never understood me and was possessive of me. And like, or even a moment where it shows that she's coming to a realization with that. It just allows it to be there and allows that to be the backdrop of what she's dealing with this whole thing of this mess of emotions and feelings of, as you said, guilt that she is the one responsible for this happening to him, but also this feeling of, but like, maybe he wasn't like a great guy, and then feeling guilty about feeling that. Like, I mean, one thing we didn't talk about because we didn't know it at the moment, but that moment where Danny has such like a visceral reaction to Jamie saying that idea of people confuse love and possession. Like she has a very like, yeah, they do. Why do they do that? And it's almost like, again, the show never spells this out for you, but it's almost a moment of realization for Danny of maybe something turns in her head a little bit. And she goes, yeah, he was kind of a little possessive of me, and he really didn't understand me, and he really didn't listen to me. And he never tipped the wait staff. So, I mean, and it's not like, I don't think you need to, learning that the person that you feel guilty about being involved in their death was actually a dick is not like an actual part of the absolution process, but it does, I think, help you like maybe take them off the pedestal that you were putting them on. Because like when a person dies, sometimes it's just like, and you feel like it's your fault. Like it's like, oh, this great, incredible, wonderful, perfect person is now gone from the world and it's all my fault. It's like, no, they were a human being and they had their faults and their foibles, and you were not responsible for any of that. And that's part of it. Right. So I don't know. I just, to get back to my point, I appreciate that the show trusts us to never like need to spell this out for us, especially in a world like we live in a world with TV right now where like a lot of these, especially on Netflix, a lot of these shows are built with the idea that you are on your phone while you are watching the show. And so there will be times where the characters will just out loud re-explain the plot to you because it's assuming that you're not looking at the screen. And so it has to audibly like refresh your memory. And this is like, I'm not being sarcastic here, Matt. Like this is an actual thing that they have talked about, that they do. And just like in that world we live in, the idea that a show is given like the bandwidth to just not spell everything out for you in a very specific, obvious kind of way, but allow you to have your own interpretations and feelings about what the show means and what it's doing and how it's making that clear through its characters. I think that's unfortunately a rare commodity sometimes.
Yeah. I would say in this show, a lot of stuff is even just down to the performances and how we choose to interpret them. Like a lot of what I just said about Danny and her feelings of guilt and, you know, maybe, you know, the idea that, for example, maybe she never even noticed that he was possessive until she saw, like, she made friends with these other people and then it became clear to her, etc. This is all subtextual, meaning I made it up, right? Like in other words,
that's when we say subtextual. Yeah. That's what we're actually saying, folks.
It's is
in
funny.
It's in a subtext.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, brain. But it's also totally true that like anytime you say something subtextual, you really mean like this is what I think, actually, right?
Shit, they're onto us.
Yeah, but that's fine. Like that's actually great. And you know, our favorite stuff to talk about is often the stuff where the author suggests, you know, indicates and leaves it to you. And if they're skillful, then you fill in that blank with something that they kind of defined for you. They set the parameters for you, and that works. And it also kind of allows you to inhabit the story and merge with the story somehow. Like you're part of it now.
Yeah.
I love all that. I love that. I love the show. I love the extremely wide palette of emotions it paints with.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's telling this very specific gothic romance thing within a certain, you know, very like trope defined, but not like in an exhausting sense. Just like the parameters of the story are defined by tropes, but then we explore all of this variety within that. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I like the way you said that. I agree. Perhaps it's time to do something that I don't know if I want to do though.
Okay, great.
Which one do you like better?
That's pretty hard. I think so. So like Haunting of Hill House is, let me put it this way. I feel like Haunting of Hill House is easier to like. And what I mean by that is it lends itself structurally and narratively toward this, building momentum, toward figuring out what this mystery is going to be. And you got all these characters who are sort of on a collision course, and you know everything is going to culminate in this life or death struggle for not only literal life and death, but like the souls of the family on a metaphysical and metaphorical level simultaneously. Sure. Like it's kind of built around this crescendo, and then on top of that, it also has these like, insane, 1080 ollies with like the one shot episode.
Uh-huh.
And just other stuff where it's like, okay, that's like crazy. That's like crazy that they pulled that off, right? And this show, The Haunting of Bly Manor, is kind of just like quieter and more atmospheric, from episode to episode. There's not this propulsion. It's not trying to be, right? It's not like, oh, they forgot to do it. It's like, no, it's just not that kind of story. And by the time we get to the end, obviously there is climactic action, but we didn't really feel like for the whole story, like there was nothing like, oh, they're going to have to go back to Hill House and they're going to have to fight the house, which we knew that was going to happen the entire time we were watching that other show.
Yeah.
So that's, as for which I like more, it's like, look, the first one feels like an action thing almost, like it hooks you and you're having fun, but also you're terrified and you're just so emotionally bruised and battered by the end of it. Whereas this one is more like cozy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because it's cozy and it's kind of more sedate in its pacing, you can see more of these shadings of theme. There's more nuance. These little like, it's Hannah Gross and Owen in the kitchen flirting in a small moment that I feel like that would have just been like that has no room to exist in The Haunting of Hill House, right? Mm-hmm. That there's no air for a scene like that in that show, Anyway, I'm this is my elaborate refusal to directly answer the question. What do you think?
I'm going to cheat because it's my question, and so I can cheat at the answer. Cool. I like the thing where Mike Flanagan directs more episodes more. And that's it. Like, so, okay, I just to refresh everyone's memory, like, I went into this thing saying I always considered Hill House one of my favorite things Mike Flanagan has ever done. And at the top, it kind of was always like a competition between Hill House and Midnight Mass. And I really didn't consider Bly Manor very much. Like, I didn't dislike it, but I didn't have a lot of like fond love for it in my memory. That has completely changed in these past 2.5 months. I deeply love this show. I think it is a magnificent accomplishment where everyone is involved. And so the answer of which is better becomes increasingly harder now because of that. And so I'm taking an out where I like when Mike Flanagan is behind the camera a whole lot. I did rewatch the first episode of this. I was hoping to do that thing where I rewatch all 9 episodes in 1 week. I didn't have time for it this week. I did rewatch Flanagan's directorial episode, and once again was just kind of in love with his flourishes. And I say this not wanting to take anything away from the incredible work I think all the other directors that stepped in, the men and women that were behind the camera for this thing, do such a good job. But I Mike.
No.
And so if you force me to answer which one's better, I'm going to say the one with two storms in it. But I love them both deeply. I really do. I almost in my mind, speaking of desperation regulators again, I want to like package these things together as part of one thing, one ultimate thing, one ultimate project that is the Haunting of series, because I mean, they do share a lot of similarities. They share a lot of actors. They're different on theming, but it's not one journey in Mike Flanagan's career, because I think both productions were very different for him. Because he did not direct every episode of the second one. And like, I'm not saying that I want Mike Flanagan to get into a situation where he must direct all 10 episodes and therefore push himself mentally and physically to the brink for my entertainment. But I'm not saying that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we demand nothing less than everything from our artists.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I definitely think if you were to go listen to both of our podcasts over both of these shows, I think there were a lot more moments where we just were like, holy shit, that shot or that sequence, or I'm still just like arrested by certain just like moments where it's like Hugh Crane goes to check on the kids and the door is open and you can see him like, I could have sworn I closed that door, or vice versa. I forget what you do.
Yeah.
Like, but point being, it's like the way it's shot, the dread, just every detail of the shot is perfect. And that's just like what you get when you're talking about something where Flanagan has been, meticulously thinking through these things. And yeah, the direction on this show was great. It just, we didn't have as many of those moments for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's I think we said at the time that I didn't notice a difference between the Flanagan episode and episode 1 and episode 2, the one directed by Mike Flanagan, the one that wasn't. And it's not that I don't know, like, it's not that now I'm like, oh, those are so different. It's just like rewatching the Mike Flanagan directed episode. It's like, man, I love his eye. Like, sometimes you just vibe with someone's storytelling. Like I watched Wake Up Dead Man, Rian Johnson's third Knives Out movie this past weekend, and that is a guy that just like, I just vibe with whatever he does. I vibe with the way he tells stories. I vibe with like how he casts his movies and his directorial choices, like everything about the way that guy makes movies. I'm just like always there for it, no matter what. And I feel like that's where I am with Mike Flanagan a lot of the times as well. So it's like, if you ask me which one I like better, I'm going to pick the one with his name on the director chair more times than the one where it's not on there, right? And if you look at like me jockeying for which is my favorite television series Mike Flanagan has directed, the two at the top of the list, Hill House and Midnight Mass, also happened to be the two that he directed every single episode of. So it's no surprise.
I don't think that's cheating. I think it's just like, look, you've identified the thing that makes the show's great, and it is
which again, like, this is a great show. Like, I don't want this to be me saying like, I don't think the directors did a very good job on this one. It really lost something once Mike got out of that chair. No, absolutely not. We talked a couple weeks ago about the Romance of Certain Old Clothes episode, which was just gorgeous, an absolutely gorgeous hour of television. Like, great stuff. And I, you wonder in the back of your head, could Mike Flanagan have shot it that way? Maybe not, right? Like, maybe that was not his strength, and they brought in a director who could shoot that episode, and she shot the absolute shit out of it. So it just sometimes comes down to personal taste.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of silly. It's like, well, what's better, the novel Low Men in Yellow Coats or Terminator 2? It's like, I don't know. They're different things. I like both of them in different ways. They just feel very different from each other. So I just kind of, it was fun to go back and forth with you here and compare them. But it's like, I don't know. I like both of them. They just feel very different to me.
Yeah, I guess, like, I think, man, I don't even want to say this. Like, I was very, very emotionally moved by the ways in which Hill House wrapped up. But I like, I was with Bly Manor too. I can't pick. Like
Yeah.
I used my cheat code because I cannot pick, because there are moments that I will treasure forever in both shows.
Yeah, I agree.
Luckily, we don't actually have to.
We don't have to do anything.
Yeah, we don't gotta do anything. All right, Matt. Let's take a look back at the year, though, a little bit here. Okay.
Okay.
This is episode 50. We've been doing this since the very beginning of January, which means I think we didn't necessarily hit every week we released an episode, but damn close. I think we took like one break or two breaks over the course of the year, which is pretty impressive. We have watched 7 movies. We have watched 2 television shows. We have read 4 novels. And then, of course, we have our Henry James short story. So quick, without thinking, what's your favorite thing? Go. That's too much time.
Well, I was gonna say, Absentia, because it's funny when you say that it's the director's first thing, because it's mean, because it's like, you know, they haven't grown at all, because you just like the first thing that they made. But
that's not why I like.
That was a joke. I do like Absentia though.
But I think I liked Absentia a lot when we watch it, and I've grown to love it even more. And it's not because like, oh look, the first thing he did was flawless, and he didn't grow as a storyteller or filmmaker from there. Obviously not true, right? Obviously, verifiably not true. He is sitting here right now. He is a better storyteller and filmmaker than he was when he made that movie. But there is something so simple and pure and distilled about it. It feels like to me, and again, I don't know this person. This is all coming from his art, but it feels like me. It distills a perfect picture of who he was at the time he made this thing, and what he was thinking about, and what he thought storytelling was, and what he wanted his career to be. And the fun part about it is we get to see those threads weave their way through everything else he's done since then.
Yeah, I agree. It's always really, really annoying when a director's first movie is as good as Absentia was, because you're just like, okay, some people are just talented, I guess.
Yeah, on a nothing budget. Like you're sitting on the couch on a Saturday saying, I'm not happy with my life. I want to do X, Y, and Z. And then there's a little voice in the back of your head that says, well, just do it. And you're like, shut up, voice. I don't have the money. And then the voice says, Absentia.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. You can do anything. You have no excuse. Yeah. I mean, definitely. So, like, I think Gerald's Game is a very special movie in many ways. Part of, you know, I got to admit, I often give art a lot of credit in my mental rankings when it's just doing something very difficult. And Gerald's Game is very difficult in so many ways. The subject matter is incredibly forbidding to any artist, you know. And the structure of it being basically a woman trapped in a room talking to herself is maximum level difficulty for film. And he pulls it off, and it's actually, and it feels different too. Like, it's interesting because Gerald's Game doesn't quite feel like anything that came before it. I mean, just to, you know, Absentia, Oculus, Hush, Before I Wake, Ouija, these are what I think you could just fairly straightforwardly call horror movies, each of them. Gerald's Game is not, it's not just a horror movie. It's a psychological horror movie. It's a drama, you know, maybe it's a drama more than it is a psychological horror movie. I mean, it's hard to say, it's hard to quantify, it's hard to put in a box. And so that's why that one jumps out to me if you're asking me for like what's been my favorite so far. And then I think I would say the other kind of obvious favorite would probably be Haunting of Hill House, kind of for the reasons we just discussed, where it's just like so many individual episodes in that show are just fantastic and transcendent.
Yeah, I like what you said there, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Gerald's Game comes like immediately before his dive into Hill House. Like, this is the fun thing we get to say as podcasters, because it's completely anecdotal and we don't have to provide any evidence to support it. But part of me wonders if Mike Flanagan was capable of making something like Hill House before he had to unlock what Gerald's game was. Like
Mm.
that is such an important stepping stone to go to to go to the complexities of telling this long TV story with many difficult themes and finding a way to structure that in a way that it works and feels rewarding. Again, I don't have to support that with any fact, but it feels like the perfect precursor ultimately to where his career goes from that point on.
Sure. Yeah.
So do you like him better as a movie director or a creator of television? And this is maybe a premature question because we've got really only his first 2 TV shows. Next year is going to be filled with television shows. We're going to go boom, boom, boom with 3 shows starting in January: Midnight Mass, Midnight Club, and House of Usher. So the early part of his career was dominated by film. And since that, there's been the spattering of movies, and there will continue to be, but it's been a lot of TV as well. What do you think?
I mean, I guess I lean towards saying the TV shows. I think even, we talked about Dr. Sleep. We talked about the differences between the director's cut and the theatrical cut. And one learning that I got from that experience is, like, it's just better when he is allowed to let things breathe. And a TV show lets him breathe way more, lets the characters breathe more. He's just the kind of storyteller who he's more interested in telling stories about complex 3-dimensional characters who need that room to breathe. You don't want to cram everything into a tight 90 minutes because it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I love a good 90-minute movie, obviously, but that's not the kind of story that he likes to tell and that he excels at telling. He likes to tell these things where there's this winding thread of Hannah Gross, what is she doing in the background for 9 episodes, right? And that sort of thing.
Yeah, as wonderful of a movie is The Innocents, that 60s adaptation of The Turn of the Screw, which I did watch. Great film, love it so much. Like, Flanagan could not have done what he wanted to do with this story in that time period. I agree. And I don't think it's an accident that he finds himself again and again returning to TV. But I think he likes movies. Like, he's a movie fan, and so I think he's always going to want to make movies. But yeah, I am curious what he feels about that. Like, if you ask the question, like, at the end of your life, what do you want to be remembered for? Do you want to be remembered for your films or your TV shows? I wonder. I mean, we've knock on wood got decades more of his work ahead of us, so we'll see how the numbers stack up at the end of his life. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, part of it is just like my deep, unending love for television as an art form. I just really, really, really love it. I mean, I've always loved movies, of course, but man, a good TV show is like, it's life changing.
Yeah. Sure.
This is a hard question.
Okay.
And I did not prepare you for it.
Okay.
What is your favorite performance in anything we've talked about so far this year?
Oh, anything ever?
Anything ever.
Oh, well, that's like way harder. I mean, especially, Jesus. Gosh. I mean, okay, so there's like you ask that question and sort of things, it's like, what jumps into your mind? And what's funny is the first thing that jumps into my mind is Rose the Hat.
Because she's pretty. I get it. It's Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
I understand, Matt. She's a beautiful woman.
She's a beautiful woman, and that's 50% of why. But also, like, that's just a fantastic villain character. Like, she's just great. She's a great... she's just fun to watch, aside from being pretty. She's scary. She's compelling. She's one of the only real, like, just like a villain. She's just a villain, right? She's not like there's not really a scene. There's nothing like the Peter Quint with his mom scene that kind of justifies why Rose the Hat is that way. So that just kind of makes her fun and evil and everything.
Yeah.
and I mean, I think the other thing that jumps to mind is, Gerald's game,
Yeah.
with, just
Carla Gugino. Yeah,
yeah,
like that's an easy and perhaps correct answer because it's like the whole movie is on her shoulders.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you have an answer to this one?
I like that. I was trying to think of like a specific moment, like maybe not like an overarching performance, but like one moment. And I think the cheat here is to fall back on the monologues because there's so many wonderfully written monologues for these characters. The things like if I'm trying to do this like I made you do it, where I throw the question at you out of left field and allow your brain to do its thing without your control. The things I thought of when I first thought of this question was I thought of Kate Siegel in episode 7 or 8 of Hill House, the one where she gives the monologue about being unable to feel, and being desperate to feel. I think that was just a beautiful performance. I go back to Henry James, the Henry James and Tim Hutton like twofer, which is again a cheat. I'm just cheating at all these questions I'm asking you, but like the twofer of the
you did it
Ukraine
again.
character,
Henry Thomas.
God damn it!
You did
God.
the thing that I did.
I even thought about it as I was saying, and
Yeah.
like check marked it in my head as like nailed that, and it was wrong. Henry Thomas and Tim Hutton, twofer for the Ukraine character. I thought just like remarkable. There's so much warmth and kindness to that character, who you've kind of been primed and charged to hate throughout the early parts of the show, because the characters dislike him so much. But I mean, I also just like I agree with you on Carla Gugino. Victoria Pedretti also in both shows, I think, just knocks it out of the park. Which I guess that's a good question for you. Like, again, playing the comparison game, like we've seen Victoria Pedretti twice now in Hill House and Bly Manor. Which performance of hers did you enjoy more?
I think Bly Manor actually. She's the lead. She gets a lot more screen time.
Yeah.
There's just a lot more for her to do. Not that she's monotonous in Hill House, but it's like she's just on this downward slide into the ditch for that entire like character arc, right?
Yeah.
Whereas there's a lot more complexity and ups and downs and zigs and zags. You see a lot more of her range. Yeah.
I think I agree with that because I mean, like if I were to say Hill House, what I would actually be saying is the confetti monologue, and that's all I would mean. But I mean, like, not to take anything away from any of the stuff she does in the rest of that show, which is remarkable, but like what I'm actually thinking of is that model, the way she gives that monologue is perfect. But yeah, over the breadth of this show and the stuff she gets to do with it, I was really like, I rewatched the first episode, like I said, and I was taken aback, reminding myself of how like energetic she is in the beginnings of that. Like when she walks into Henry Wingrave's office for the interview, she walks in so confident or projecting confidence, but it is a confidence with like mania just on the edge of it because she's also like deeply unwell, and just like the way she perfectly captures that emotion and that energy early in the show, and the way that Bly and especially the people, not just Jamie but I think also Owen and also Hannah and maybe even the children on some level, the way that they kind of just start to calm that and she portrays that perfectly. Yeah, I think the show is asking a lot more of her, and she delivers. So yeah. I agree with you there.
Cool.
Great. What's your favorite thing you read?
I really like The Way It Came. That's the one. I think that's almost an easy answer to me. Okay, so that's my favorite thing I read out of the Henry James short stories. Whole year wise, it's probably going to be Gerald's Game.
It's a very good book.
Yeah.
It's a very good book. It's a very challenging book. It was a very difficult book to talk about, but I really enjoyed even kind of working through the difficulty of the conversations with you. I really like The Haunting of Hill House. I think Shirley Jackson is brilliant. And I loved all the Henry James stuff. Please don't mistake that, but like I really enjoyed revisiting that because that the thing is, and the reason I'm not saying Gerald's Game as well is because I had read that book before and thought a lot about that book and enjoyed that book. And it's a type of book where I was able to enjoy it on a level without having to do this podcast with you. I feel like reading The Haunting of Hill House with you and having to talk about it for a month just like opened up that book for me for a way that it just never would have in any other way, because I had read it once before and I liked it. The experience of reading that book and really getting to spend some time diving into it, I loved.
Yeah, now that you've kind of reprimed me on that, that's definitely near the top of my list, although I still, stand by the two that I said before.
Well, and Gerald's Game was new for you, right? You had
Yeah.
I mean, you'd watched the movie, but you had never read that book, so that was just like a whole new experience for you. So I get that. I get that. Do you have, so kind of thinking back on the year, there was definitely some stuff of Flanagan's that you had. Was there any like big surprise for you coming out of this year that like you went into this with maybe a notion of how some of this was going to go or not go, and left kind of shocked or surprised by it?
I don't know. I mean, I think there were a lot of small surprises, like especially for the first several movies. I didn't really know, what we were getting into, because I just, I had watched Midnight Mass and I had watched Doctor Sleep. Those are my two touch points of this director and his career. And then, these first several movies are these kind of in some ways traditional horror movies, but then he's always bringing a lot of nuance to the script, and then a lot of attention to detail to the directing, and et cetera, just really tightly made. So it's like, wow, this is just like a really, really good horror movie, but also it's a horror movie, right? And I guess it was kind of surprising to me only in the sense of like, oh, so he hasn't always been doing these like really unique personal things. He had a period of his career where he was, making, relatively speaking, more mainstream movies. Not that like Doctor Sleep isn't mainstream, you know what I mean? I don't know that I'm like expressing it. It was just like I had him in a certain box, and then as we went to the beginning of his career and started making our way through, I was like, oh, the box just needs to be bigger. He can do a lot of different things, actually.
Sure.
A bunch of little surprises in different directions is kind of what I mean.
Sure. Yeah. No, I like that. I was most surprised by how good Ouija: The Origin of Evil is.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's the thing, is it's funny because it's like, yeah, these are basically Ouija: Origin of Evil and Oculus are kind of both like they're just horror movies, but they're just like super, super well done in every way. So
it's one of those movies that I just like don't know how he got away with it. Like, cause like, look, to remind everyone, the first movie is so bad. It's really not good. And that they allowed him to make a sequel and then do all the stuff that is so different from how you would do a movie like this, I think is pretty remarkable, actually.
It's got to be a great thing to do for your career, to be like, yeah, I'm the guy who saved the Ouija franchise single-handedly.
Well, I don't think they've made another movie after this one, so...
I'm the guy who killed the Ouija franchise by making a movie too good so no one could follow up on it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I think one thing I want to make sure we do is, like, one of the unsung heroes that we haven't talked about throughout this whole year is Mike Flanagan's casting directors. So like we've talked glowingly about the people that he brings into these roles, but like casting directors are a pretty crucial role in this whole thing. I mean, and I think it's perfect to do this now because next year's Oscars will be the first time there is a Academy Award for casting. Very exciting. There should have been long overdue, but Anne McCarthy and Kelly Roy, I think, are two women who have worked with Mike throughout most of his career. I think they did the casting on both Hill House and on Bly Manor. And that's like you think of, like, I don't think people that don't think about movies as much as maybe we do, like, think about like how hard casting actually is. Cause it's like, all right, I got this part. I wrote this part. We need to find the person for it. Well, what do you want for it? Some like nebulous shape of a person. I mean, sometimes it's like an X type, right? Mm-hmm. And that helps. But like the casting directors have to like get that information, translate it, go out and find human beings that match that stuff, wade through agents that are like mercilessly cold calling them to try to get their clients anything, and to find the perfect part for this. Like Victoria Pedretti, right, is a perfect example of, she sent a tape in, a casting director watched the tape and said like, no, this is something. And the reason why it even got to Mike Flanagan is because someone in casting was smart enough to recognize something there. And like that is, it's just, and like any other members of his cast, like his editors, like his cinematographers, like his actors, he works with the same people. And so in casting, it wasn't always these two women. There's some other people involved as well, but they've been here for a lot of it. And we've not once mentioned their names over the course of this podcast. So I wanted to make sure we at least did that.
Yeah, that's great. Good idea.
Mm-hmm. All right. So next year, Matt, we're moving right along, right? We're leaving behind the Haunting of series, but we are smack dab in the middle of our plan, right? This was a 50 or 100 episode plan. This is episode 50 right now. We've still got 3 more Netflix shows to go. We've got a few movies, and then we've also got an Amazon show, his first show with Amazon that isn't even out yet as we speak, and hopefully will be out by October 8th when we are planning on beginning it. I don't know. That is, I think, one of the interesting things about next year is kind of going to be, our schedule is very, very set until we get to August. And in August, we get very close to like catching up to what is being made for the first time, right? Mm-hmm. So for those of you that haven't checked the schedule, from here we move into Midnight Mass. Then we move into the Midnight Club. We are going to read the Christopher Pike novel. I believe some of the other stories in the Midnight Club are based on other Christopher Pike novels. You know, Matt, I thought about doing the Henry James thing again. I think we're just going to stick to Midnight Club for this one.
Okay. All right.
Maybe we'll regret that in the future, but maybe not. We'll see. Then we move into the Fall of the House of Usher, which, like Bly Manor, is a adaptation of one Edgar Allan Poe story, but also secretly an adaptation of a bunch of other Edgar Allan Poe stories. So we are going to read all those short stories that serve as the titles of the Fall of the House of Usher series, and then watch that series. And then from there, things get a little different. There is a VHS Beyond, which is a like collection of short films that they release every year. There is one of those that was written by Mike Flanagan and directed by Kate Siegel. It's actually her directorial debut. It's called Stowaway. I have not seen it yet, but we're gonna talk about that. We've also got The Life of Chuck, the film that came out last year, so we're gonna read that story and talk about that. And then we get a little weird because there's also a Clayface movie coming out next year, Clayface the Batman villain. Mike Flanagan did write the script for that movie. However, I believe last I heard, the project like went pretty heavily away from the draft that Flanagan sold. So I don't know. I mean, he's still going to get a writer credit on it, I think, but I don't know how much of the finished product is actually going to be the script that Mike Flanagan wrote. I think we're still going to watch it and see, and maybe do an episode on it, because I think that's a fun thing to talk about, of like, we know maybe that this show or this movie moved away from what Mike Flanagan wrote, but is there pieces of that, recognizable pieces of that, still in the finished product? Might be a fun exercise for us to talk about.
Yeah.
And then we move into Carrie. So we're going to read Stephen King's Carrie, and then we're going to hope that... I know the show is coming out next year. They have not released a release date for it yet. So we're going to hope that's before we start covering it on the show. And that's what we're going to do. And then we basically get to the end. I had Flanagan's Exorcist movie here on the list. I believe it's in pre-production right now, so I don't think it's a movie that's going to be coming out next year. So we'll cover that when it comes out. But we basically get to the end and then have to just like sit on our hands and wait for Mike to make more things.
Great.
I think when I first put this together, I think I first put the schedule together for the first time 2 years ago. And it was right around the time, because I think it was a little over 2 years ago that it was announced that Flanagan had acquired the rights to The Dark Tower. And so my secret hidden wish with this whole project was that by the time we finished going through everything else, The Dark Tower would be coming out and we could just easily transition into that. That's not going to happen, right? I'm not saying The Dark Tower is not going to happen. Mike Flanagan still seems pretty positive that he's going to get to make that show eventually, and we're very excited for it. But it's not gonna be a smooth transition right into us covering this Dark Tower show. So I think we're gonna wrap this thing up after Carrie, pretty much, but with the idea that unlike some of our other shows that have an end date, we're probably gonna pick stuff up again as it comes out, because that's the kind of ongoing project we've got here.
Makes sense. I like it.
So it's going to be an exciting year. It's going to be a fun year. The show will end next year. Will, quote unquote, end next year no matter what. It's just we don't quite know where it's going to end. And it also will have a long tail after that as well.
Yep.
What are you most excited for in all this stuff?
Well, every time you mention that he's making a Carrie adaptation, it's just like, this is a guy who gets Stephen King in a really unique way. Obviously, we really like, one of the Carrie adaptations quite a lot. Mm-hmm. So it just excites me to see a different spin on it. Mike Flanagan's spin on that material, and see what he chooses to emphasize and pull out. And it's a great book. So that's one thing that jumps out to me. And honestly, it's just like, well, that's also something I'm familiar with, so it's kind of easy for me to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about
Great.
you?
Yeah, I mean, I am like, I so many people when the Carrie stuff was announced were like, why do we need another Carrie adaptation? And all I kept thinking in my head was like, have you watched any of this guy's stuff? Like, he's not just gonna remake Carrie. Like, it's like, especially if he's dividing it into 8-hour-long episodes, it's gonna be some sort of exploration of some things that we maybe haven't seen in the same way in some of these adaptations of the story. So I'm very excited about that. I think the thing I've been excited about since the beginning was really getting to dive into Midnight Mass with you. Because I know it's going to be a little bit of a unique situation for us, because this will be the first and only thing on the show that we've both seen that we're going to be covering in its entirety. Like, I know you had seen Dr. Sleep, but the book was still new for you. Midnight Mass from beginning to end is something we've both seen before. So we're going to have to leave our structure behind a little bit. But I still think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm definitely excited about talking about that with you. Right. Yeah. In terms of new stuff I haven't seen, though, that was,
especially after watching Wake Up Dead Man, which was another formerly religious filmmaker contemplating religion and faith.
Yeah.
In a way that I just really, really, really liked. That got me. Like, I watched that movie and I was like, oh, I'm so excited to dive into Midnight Mass. I'm so excited for this. So
I'm primed. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be a good year. I'm really looking forward to all this. I have to admit that I have not ever finished the Midnight Club, the television show. I got about halfway through it and I just got distracted and busy and went somewhere else. So I think for the sake of staying true to our normal format, I am going to watch that thing in its entirety before we get to it, so I can be the me for this one.
Awesome. I can't wait to be the me. I haven't been the me in so long.
All right, so that is 2026 for us. I think it's gonna be really exciting. We'll see how it all plays out. And I think, Matt, unless you want to talk about anything else specific to this past year and these shows and movies, let's get into some mailbag.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
So, yeah. Mailbag. So people are asking us questions. First from DJ Nedelko. Why is this show not talked about more? I'm not a big horror person, so I probably wouldn't have watched this show if it weren't for the podcast, but I think it's a masterpiece. It's not as much scary as it is eerie, and excluding the last episode, which we haven't seen, it ties up all the loose ends very well in terms of answering the many questions we had early on. Is it just the dilution of media where so much is available? Did people binge it so fast they never took the time to think about it? I find the camera work to be creative and smart. I think the actors are fantastic. The twists along the way all have sensible clues that one could pick up on. Why has not everyone seen this show, or why has no one else recommended it to me? And will this continue to happen generally with all media moving forward? So I'll just say, I mean, yeah, there's just so much stuff on now. There's just too much stuff. There's too much good stuff on. And then the other thing, I think like we said a minute ago, like this is just more of, it's a little bit more sedate of a pace, more deliberate of a pace, especially compared to The Haunting of Hill House, for example. So
Yeah.
it's just not going to be like, oh my God, have you seen the latest episode? Like, it's just not, mostly it's not that kind of show.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes some of this stuff is just luck and timing. I think one of the other things, we mentioned this show came out in October of 2020. So it's in the pandemic still, but it's in the portion of the pandemic where people are like, I really want to go outside.
Yeah.
I really, really want to go outside. Like maybe if the show had come out right at the beginning of the pandemic in April or May, March or April, where like Netflix was blowing up to unheard of numbers because all everyone was doing was staying at home and watching Tiger King. Maybe if it had hit then, it would have been much bigger, but it hit closer to the end of the year when people were starting to go back out into the world again, and that having like a very slow, deliberately paced, eerie, beautiful show like this was just not what people were looking for at the time, and that has nothing to do with the show. It's just one of those mysteries of like if you could accurately predict this kind of stuff, you'd be like the richest person in Hollywood, because like they're constantly rolling dice and trying to figure out, what is the perfect timing for what are people going to like, what are they going to respond to, and the secret is nobody has any idea.
Right. Yeah. Here's a Korean show about a death game.
Yeah.
Randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I think the other big thing is that it is kind of like Hill House's little sister, in a way that, like, I think unfairly relegates it to being a second thought. When you're thinking about The Haunting of, you think about Hill House first. It came first, and as you said, it's a little bit more, it's bigger and more bombastic, where this is smaller, quieter, more meditative, and so you're just not going to think about it as much.
Yeah.
And I am just as guilty as that as anyone, right? Like why haven't I recommended Bly Manor to more people? I've certainly recommended Hill House to tons of people. Why have I? And it's, I don't know. It's just one of those things, right? I think one of the fortunate things about time, though, is that I think the truly great things find a way to get remembered. And I feel like this show is continuing to like rise up in people's estimation.
I think you're right.
Yeah. All right. Aqua Lungfish asked a few questions here. The first one is, how's the show doing? They don't mean The Haunting of Bly Manor when they say, because I I have to admit to you, in my egotism and selfishness, the first time I read DJ Janelko's question saying, why is the show not talked about more, I thought he was talking about your and my show. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, man.
Good question.
But Aqua Lungfish says, how's the show doing? I know you're enjoying it, and I also know the numbers aren't the thing you're most worried about, but it would be nice to know if it's doing at least decently well. You can rest assured knowing it is doing decently well, right? I think we kind of knew that going from Stephen King, the biggest author of the 20th century to Mike Flanagan, a very successful but I think comparatively smaller creator, that the number of people interested in listening to a podcast about that would also go down a little bit. And it has, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're happy with the numbers. I think the numbers continue to grow.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I think we were afraid that it wouldn't get any traction. There's always that fear when you start a new show, just because you're like, maybe we're not actually that good at this and so on. But no, it's kind of where we thought it would be, I think is fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe we wish that it had more traction on YouTube, but I think the YouTube algorithm doesn't like 2-hour long anything, really. It just doesn't recommend that kind of thing very much, unless I don't know. I don't want to blame the YouTube algorithm.
I do.
What did he ever do to us?
Everything.
Yeah. I don't know. It's fine. We're not worried about it. We're very happy with how things are going.
Yep. I mean, if you want, like, I'm not going to give like solid numbers, but like I think one of the things we see when comparing like the month to months between Kingslingers and Flanagan's Wake is about like a 4x difference between the two in like a 30-day period. But like even that's distorted because there's also 4 times the number of Kingslingers episodes than there are Flanagan's Wake episodes. So like you're just going to get more listens comparatively when there are more episodes because there's more content. So one of the useful metrics that I've been paying attention to is as we've been releasing our week-to-week episodes of Welcome to Derry, as we've been watching that show on the Kingslingers feed, I think that's a much more accurate compare because it's 2 television shows. And that difference has been a little under a 2x difference, which I think actually is pretty good considering. It still means the Flanagan show is technically smaller, but it's smaller by a lot less than it looks like if you just look at our basic numbers.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. Aqua Lungfish says, do you have a single favorite performance from one of the Flanagan regulars so far? See, I stole your question, Aqua. I'm sorry. We've kind of already answered that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say there?
Carla Gugino.
I really like, just to say it, to take an opportunity to say it, I love the one-off monologues that he gives some characters that are smaller, even side characters on the show. He again, thinking of the woman who does that monologue at the very beginning of The Haunting of Hill House, whose name I am blanking on right now. But the idea that he brings in these amazing actors and then gives them great work, but also can bring in these character actors for small parts and side roles, and still, I'm going to feed you some good material and trust that you can do it, and they do.
Yeah.
That's also cast directing again. That was the casting director who found that woman.
You're on a tear.
It's just like I don't know. We're as guilty of this as anyone else. The idea of auteur theory and like the one great man in history and in film history. Obviously, we named our podcast after this one man, but he does have a pretty remarkable team around him as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, Aqua last asks, and I think this is the most important question, Matt. If you were a potato, how would you like to be served?
I've always been partial to the ones where you wrap them in foil with the fixins and stick them in the hot coals of a fire.
All right. Mashed.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I knew you'd say that. All right. Pear Jane says, what author do you want to see Mike Flanagan tackle next? Not including the ones he's covered already, obviously. And they say, 'tis the season, so I would love to see a Mike Flanagan Christmas Carol. Wow, that immediately pushed play on a film reel in my mind. Just immediately triggered something. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. It's got ghosts and everything. It's the haunting of Scrooge Manor. It's great.
I mean, Dickens in general, like it could be Christmas Carol, but it could just be Dickens in general. I think I would be really into. I mean, there's so many great authors out there, but yeah, like going back to an earlier century and doing one of the more famous, complicated authors from that time period. Yeah, sure. I love it.
Yeah. No, I'm struggling to come up with a better answer. I mean, the subject matter. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this one off the top of my head. Christmas Carol. There you go. Dickens. We did it. Sorry.
You just took her answer.
Yeah, maybe I'll think of a better answer in a second. This is like a it's like, we do the book club, right? And so that my cache of recent books I've read is dominated by the book club, and I'm like, I don't know that any of the recent book club books lend themselves particularly well to like what I would like to see Mike Flanagan doing. So I'm just I'm kind of vapor locked. And it's like, do we want to see Mike Flanagan do, murder mysteries or something? Like, I don't know. Maybe that could be fun.
I mean, that's a good question because, like, obviously horror is his bread and butter, but even Bly Manor, while firmly horror, it is more gothic horror, gothic romance. It like, one thing that's definitely not horror is The Dark Tower, right?
Yeah.
So, would we, if we had the power to pick, like, would we like to pick something that pushes him out of that area a little bit? Because like, I think he's very good at character, so I don't think it needs to live in a horror backdrop other than the fact that he very much enjoys horror stories. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. The Red Rising trilogy.
No.
It's just literally the most recent thing I read. That's
No.
Okay.
Rob the Gob asks, since Flanagan is known for adapting King's unadaptable works, is there any other stories King has written that you would think would be elevated by Flanagan's approach to bring the written word to the screen? I will let you answer this one first, Matt, as your sample size is a little bit smaller here than mine, by the fact that you just haven't read as many of King's books.
King stories that he has not already covered. I would like somebody to eventually adapt Insomnia, because when you think unfilmable, unadaptable Stephen King novels, that one is near the top of the list. And I feel like Mike Flanagan would definitely be able to just like reach into that novel and just pull out the dramatic core of it and put that on the screen. Even with the little weird doctor creatures and everything, he would find a way to make it work and like be good and dramatic in all the ways it's supposed to be.
I mean, one thing we haven't quite said yet is a lot of Mike Flanagan's stories are about death. That's kind of why the title of the podcast is Flanagan's Wake. I mean, think of a thing we've covered on the story so far that hasn't had either the fear of death or dealing with death, and the grief and loss of it in some way, shape, or form. Go. There's not any.
I can't.
There's literally none.
Yeah.
So Insomnia, one of the core things of Insomnia is the main character loses his wife at the very beginning of the story, and it's him dealing with that loss and also a lot of other things, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that's a bad choice.
Okay, cool.
Doomickey. Just because. That's
great.
my answer.
That's a good one.
Cause.
I can see that too. It fits. It's haunted area. Sure.
Yeah. Rob the Gob also asks, Bly Manor is the last installment of the Haunting series, but a trilogy would be so cool. Is there a haunted house story that you guys think could fit as a third season of the series? This is kind of like Pear Jane's question, but a little different on it. Like, because she was just like, what author ever? Like, specifically like a haunted house story. What do you think?
So I saw this question in advance and I thought about it a bit, and I came to the realization that I just haven't read that many haunted house books. So I was forced to say, I'm just going to pick a pre-existing haunted house film and then suggest that Mike Flanagan do his Mike Flanagan thing on it. And I really, really love The Others. I think The Others is just a great movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies. And it's like, well, then why would you want him to remake it? And it's like, look, I just really like the story. I think it's a great story. And I think like if that's the frame of the question, then yeah, I'd like to see his take on that material.
Yeah. That's a great answer. People keep telling me about Hell House by Richard Matheson, which I've not read. and I don't know if it's good or would even fit in what like Mike Flanagan does. But Stephen King really liked it, so
Yeah.
maybe that would work.
Yeah. Here's another like fake half answer is we read The Fisherman the other day, and that's not a haunted house story, but it is like a haunting sort of, it is sort of a ghost story, It was very creepy. I liked it. So that's my other suggestion, even though it's not actually a haunted house story.
Yeah, I just also feel the need to remind you that by the other day, you mean November of 2023.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Yeah. I heard you say the other day, and I was like, I Googled it immediately.
It felt like the other day to me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I couldn't think of anything for this one either, so I just started Googling and trying to find what are some of the most highly rated haunted house stories of all time. And I mean, one of the things that's interesting is we have with Henry James, we have a story from the 1900s. With Shirley Jackson, we have a story from the 20th century. Maybe we could do something that's a bit more modern.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm just looking at a list of haunted house stories right now, and House of Leaves caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
Unadaptable.
Perfect.
But do you think there's something there?
Yeah.
I think there is.
I mean, I feel like he specializes in the unadaptable, right? Like
Yeah.
the part about it that's unadaptable, right, is like the multi-layered thing. You could do, he could do the story about what's happening in the house. The Johnny Truant part would be difficult to work in.
But part of me thinks that he'd find some really clever way to work that into the story. Because, yeah, I mean, one thing that's true is that he's not afraid to go off book in his adaptations, right? And
right.
Yeah.
So we play with it, and it's not quite exactly the way that it is in the novel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. I think we stumbled on the correct answer to the question. Last question from Rob the Gob says, a lot of us came from King singers, so most of us have a love for King and the way you guys break down his stories. You both have also said that you love short stories, of which King has written many. Could doing a once-a-month mini book club work where you guys pick 1 to 3 of his short stories and then discuss them? Could even do it on Patreon and let patrons vote on the stories. It's a wonderful idea. I don't know how we find time to do that.
Yeah.
I love it. But time is a factor here. I have for the last 8 weeks been doing this extra podcast with Kim talking about Welcome to Derry, and it is basically taken every ounce of the free time I have. Yeah. So our plates are very full, and as much as I would love to do that, it's difficult to put more on them.
Yeah, but maybe at some future point when we have a little bit more bandwidth, though. It's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Busy Dad 82 says, Matt, I believe I remember hearing that you've seen Midnight Mass. It's true. So it seems like we'll deviate from the usual format. Are there other future Flanagan works you've seen, and whether or not it is a rewatch, what are your expectations? I think the answer is no, there are not any other Flanagan works that would be rewatches. It was just Doctor Sleep and Midnight Mass that I'd seen. And I mean, I love Midnight Mass. I think it was very easy for me to say yes when Scott suggested doing the show, because I was like, okay, well, these things are both incredible, and if the other stuff that he's done is on par with this, then it's going to be really easy for us to talk about it. I mean, yeah, easily those TV show episodes are going to be able to more than support our discussions, right? That's then the stuff that I haven't seen, I mean, I'm really enjoying watching all of his stuff, like everything, especially the stuff that he actually directs, as we discussed. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm thrilled that we get to do this every week.
Yeah, Matt really wanted to go see Life of Czech last year, and I told him, no, you're not allowed to.
Yeah. I'm still kind of sad about that.
We'll get there.
Next question from Busy Dad. How are you all feeling about finishing up one monster of a limited series and heading straight into another without any break to read anything? I mean, we do like to read things, but on the other hand, we did a long stretch of reading things. So you could call this a break from reading things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's how I feel about it.
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling so great. I love it. I love talking about TV in this way. It's so fun. So I'm excited.
They also say, speaking of reading, I know you've mentioned watching each episode 2 to 4 times. Do you spend as much time per week reading and rereading? How much time are you spending between viewing, recording, and editing per week on just this one podcast?
No. So I don't know about you, but I think the act of actually like consuming the thing for the first time when you're reading 75 to 100 pages is more time consuming than the act of watching one episode of television one time, right? So I generally do not have as much time to reread the book pages as many times as I rewatched the show episodes. I think my basic thing is I read through it once, highlighting as I go, things that stick out to me and things I want to remember talk about. And then as I'm making the script, I'm essentially rereading the section again, looking at my highlights and refreshing my memory of why I highlighted this thing and what specifically I wanted to talk about. And that's why I'm typing up my portion of the script as I do that. So I think with reading, I do it twice. The only reason I do it as many times as I do with the TV shows is A, I have the time to do that, and B, I think it really helps me. Because sometimes in TV, stuff's happening so fast sometimes that you just like miss it, or you're like that moment, like in Memento, when you see something on the screen and you're like frantically looking for a pen to write down to remember it, and then you forget and get distracted. And multiple watches really helps with that, especially when like one of my rewatches of the TV shows and movies is specifically to like, all I'm going to do in this rewatch is pay attention to camera stuff. That's all I'm going to do. I've watched the story enough that I understand the story and I know the story elements of the scene, so I'm just going to pay attention to the cinematography of the scene, and that is really helpful for me. So that's my answer to that part of the question. I think you only watch them like 2 times, right?
Yeah, I don't have time for the degree of rewatching that Scott does, and I also don't really reread. I just, pay attention. Usually take notes, and then usually you and I talk about things between ourselves. Mm-hmm. Not like it's not like we set aside time to be like, all right, let's talk and prepare. It's more like we just organically talk about it, and that helps me kind of gel some of my feelings and thoughts and observations. And then the script process is usually, if we're reading something, the script process is usually much more detail oriented and just like time consuming, because we go through, we really carefully like note down all of the things that we intend on talking about. The same is really true for the TV show, honestly, but like it's more, you'll notice our TV show conversations are more nonlinear, and it's just we're more trying to notate like what are the ideas that we want to hit, and be sure that we, observations, ideas, themes, concepts that we want to be sure to talk about, rather than like, okay, and then this happened, and then this is, the reaction in a kind of a linear fashion.
Yeah. I don't know when we exactly decided not to do like the beat by beat with the TV show episode and movies. I just, for whatever reason, I like the beat by beat conversations in books, and I just like them less when it's a television show. I don't know why that is. I just didn't want to do it that way, and I don't think you did either. And so we just kind of decided not to do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like it feels like an organized way of going through written material, but it feels like a restrictive way of going through visual material for some reason that I can't possibly explain.
Exactly right. Yeah. As far as how much time all this stuff takes, I haven't actually like added it up lately. A lot is an answer. Like if I'm watching it up an hour long episode 4 times, that's 4 hours right there. Then taking note. And like, I would say on some of my more detailed viewings, it doesn't take an hour to watch it because I'm constantly pausing and jotting stuff down or rewatching a particular thing if I thought I caught something. It takes longer than that. I mean, recording takes the length of the episode you hear, essentially, maybe a little bit more. Fortunately, we are not doing any of our editing right now. We have Jason, who came aboard, I think, right about Gerald's game time, to help us with editing, because the video editing side of things was just becoming insurmountable for me. I was barely keeping up and could not keep doing it, and Jason came in and really saved our ass there. So we knocked that little bit off. Like, there's no way I could do the It Welcome to Derry show if I was also having to edit the video for this show. Like, it wouldn't happen. So it's freed us up to have a little bit of a life and also stuff that life with more podcasts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. All right. Don Zesta says, what nonfiction books do you guys lean towards? Favorite nonfiction books you've read this year? I'm not sure how you would have time for anything outside of Duke projects. Yeah. I have not read... Have I read any nonfiction this year? So, I will say, like, my choices for nonfiction are history and film stuff, and sometimes a combination of that and film history is what I typically read. But I just have very little time for reading outside of what we're already doing on the show, and so I haven't. That's not true. I read You Got Red on You, which was a book about the making of Shaun of the Dead. I read that this year. I enjoyed that a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It appears that all of the nonfiction books that I actually read, rather than just downloading and listening to 5 minutes and stopping, were business books of various kinds. So
that's pretty boring.
You got to admit it's on brand, though.
Yes, it's extremely on brand.
I didn't realize. I mean, it's funny to actually recognize this, but yeah, I downloaded like 6 nonfiction books, and I didn't listen to 3 of them, and the 3 that I did listen to were business books. So there you go.
I like my to be read list is very long, but there are a lot more nonfiction books on that list than there are fiction books, just because I tend to get to the fiction books at a pretty regular clip, but I am horribly behind on my nonfiction reading.
That's okay. We do a lot of reading. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. I guess my turn. Duran Longbeard says, have either of you ever experienced a paranormal event, including but not limited to seeing or hearing things, something moving, demon chest ghosts trying to strangle you, etc.? I think we've said before, perhaps like, I wish I had, but I never have.
I have not. I don't believe that they are real things, but I'm not so arrogant as to assume that my belief there is 100% accurate without question. More than willing to be convinced otherwise, but have yet to see convincing evidence, either personally or through a third party, that such things actually happen. But yeah, ghosts, come on. Willing, able.
Yeah, I've been told, like, just if you make yourself open to it, then the spirits will sense that and they will show themselves. And I'm like, I could not possibly be more willing and open. I desperately want there to be, something like this.
It certainly would open up my belief and understanding of how this universe we inhabit works.
I feel like if there is some kind of higher power, then they're sitting there and they're going like, nah, these guys are too analytical. They would just analyze the shit out of it. They're not the kind of people who need this kind of experience.
Yeah,
they need to grapple with the mundane. That's their burden.
I agree. We're being robbed. It's not fair. Pedro Dinero 77 says, I was going to be a smartass and answer face off to whatever the question was, since you said that was a valid answer to anything. Then I realized it was a mailbag episode, so face off?
Good question, Pedro Dinero 77. And of course, the answer to your question is yes.
Matt, I watched Face Off the other day. I have so much free time, and I chose some of it to watch Face Off again.
Yeah.
The thing about Face Off is close your eyes and think about how ridiculous that movie is.
Okay, I'm doing it.
It's 3 times more ridiculous than you're remembering. I guarantee it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I believe you.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I loved it. It's so delightful.
Yeah. It's like self-consciously being ridiculous. Like that's the thing people need to understand.
Oh, yeah. There's literally a moment at the beginning when Castor Troy is dressed up as a priest and he's like watching this choir group sing and he's dancing like a fucking idiot, and it cuts to a woman who is for I don't understand why she like is aroused by anything that he's doing, but she is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, God, what an absurd movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best movie of all time.
I love it.
Yeah.
Bent Westward says, with the increase in AI being used to create poor facsimile content based on popular artists and mediums, which medium that you cover on your shows are you least excited about AI flooding the market? Books, movies, shows, music, video games, or something else?
I would simply put that in a list of the things I care about most to the things I care about the least. So,
yeah, I think my attitude is just like you just don't engage with it and move on because the existence of shitty AI content doesn't actually take away from good stuff. Like I really don't think it does. So just like whatever, like continue to watch the stuff that you like.
There's so much shitty AI stuff out there. It's crazy how much there is out there right now. But it's currently so recognizably shitty AI that it is very easy to just say, okay, nope, go away. Don't want you.
Right. There's like, let me just take a spin on this question though, because like, it's one thing to say like, okay, I'm not excited about there being a bunch of like shitty AI made books on, Amazon Kindle store, but I also don't care because I'm not like, they're shitty. No one's going to recommend them to me. They're not going to get well reviewed, and thus who cares? What's to me a more sort of confrontational question is, are you excited about really fucking excellent AI generated novels ending up on the Kindle store? Because that is a real Butlerian jihad situation.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what if just like you do an A/B test of like, I give you 2 novels and 100% of the time your favorite one is the AI generated one because they're just better. That will happen.
See, that's terrifying to me in a way that I can't quite explain.
Yeah, but and I kind of agree. And I mean, the way that I've sort of like soul searched about this is just like, part of the a significant part of the enjoyment of my enjoyment of art and novels specifically is like you're in conversation with the novelist in this way. And if the novelist is not a person, then I'm just way less interested in that. Mm-hmm. In other words, an AI can't have a perspective in the same way that a human can have a perspective.
Yeah. It's a facsimile of the human experience, not the actual human experience, which is paramount to the creation of art that I feel has meaning. But if that facsimile is so good that it is unrecognizable from the real thing,
it'll be better. It'll be better than the real thing. It will be. Like this isn't like this. I feel like people often try to have their cake and eat it too in the AI conversation, where they're like, AI is bad and also it's going to take over the world and take all of our jobs. It's like, no, AI being bad is one thing, but AI is going to be so good that it can do everything better than us, and that's a different thing. It's not Sora that's going to take over the world. It's the next thing that doesn't exist yet.
Did you see that Disney just heavily invested in Sora though? Did you see that? That's a huge shift in the conversation too. Like, I agree with you. Sora is not going to be the thing that creates movies unrecognizable from human beings' blood, sweat, and tears to make movies. But like, the idea that the people with the money, aka the people that are in charge of making all the decisions, are seeing this as a thing that we have to get into now, or else we're going to be left in the dust, is kind of a watershed moment, I think.
Yeah. I think so.
Because like, Sora was sort of dead. I listened to a podcast about this today, which is why I'm so knowledgeable on this. I didn't know this before, but like, my understanding is Sora came out, it had a bunch of copyright shit in it, and a lot of people were playing with it because you could do all kinds of shit with all kinds of copyright stuff, because for whatever reason they released it as you had to opt out by default instead of you had to opt in, which is a wild thing to do, and lawyers probably told them immediately, hey, you can't do that. So they switched their model, and so all this copyright stuff came out of it. My understanding was like usage of it plummeted after that. But now Disney is basically saying, you can put a bunch of our Disney characters in this thing again. And I mean, is that going to make something that's unrecognizable from a Disney movie? No, of course not. But is it going to be something that, like, they're probably going to find a way to like stick on Disney Plus and like, you know, you just watched Moana. Now tell Moana to call your grandma on the phone and tell her how good Moana is.
Right. Totally. They're totally going to do that.
Yeah.
They're also going to use it. I mean, they're also going to use it in films, right? This is a thing that, you know, people, I think understandably are very apprehensive about, but I feel like I remember this same argument happening like in the 90s, where it was like, can you believe that all the animators are losing their jobs because they're not making, you know, animated films anymore? They're making these CGI monstrosities that look so ugly compared to the animated films that were beautiful, which at the time was true. And now it's 20 years later, and it's like, when you say animated film, you mean CGI. That's what an animated film is now, right?
To be fair, there are a lot of CGI monstrosities out there right now.
There are a lot of CGI monstrosities, but then there's you know, everything that Pixar makes, and there's a lot of really good stuff, and it's an art form now, and it's just like, yeah, like it's going to be used as a tool in artistic mediums, and it's just going to happen. So,
yeah.
You know.
I mean, my take on this is always going to be that I think I want to experience and feel stories written and created by people who have experienced and lived life. And so I'm going to always err towards that. And the idea that one day I won't be able to tell terrifies me to the core of my humanness. And that's besides the idea of people losing jobs and economic security and what the entertainment industry looks like when you don't have to pay people anymore. Like, that's a terror on its own. But just like I think we talked about this on the last mailbag, but like, intellectually fascinating on like, what is life when we start talking about a thing that we made that is able to do better at us. At this, like, what does life and consciousness mean when that is true? But also, it shakes me to my foundation, and I don't like it. But I also know that I am powerless to stop it.
Yeah, I think it's important to get that part. Like, being grumpy about it is not going to change it. So let's like get our heads around it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this last time too. Is like, you know, there's a big difference between a completely like Sora generated movie or whatever, and like how it was used in The Brutalist, right? Where it's like there are and there are things that we're also using with AI and have been for years that make the movie making process a little bit easier. That are tools that are done and used. That's already happening, and we're gonna have to just deal with that, because that genie's not gonna just go back in its bottle.
Yeah, I think where this all leads in sort of the, I don't know, medium term, is like, you know, you put on your helmet and it reads your mind, and you just like imagine the movie that you want, and then it appears. and then you maybe iterate on it a few times, and it's AI that's doing that fundamentally, because you need to be able to interpret the signals. But that's actually empowerment, right? Like what we want is we want our tools to empower us. And the reason we don't like the current manifestation of AI is it feels disempowering. But it doesn't have to be. It can be a tool. And I think that's how everyone hopes it's going to go. And there's a lot of people trying to make it go that way. And then there's a lot of people doing stuff like shoving Mickey Mouse into Sora, and that's not the same thing. So anyway,
no, that's bad. Don't like that. Don't like Mickey Mouse. Although Sora is a character from Kingdom Hearts, so it is kind of a complete circle situation.
That's true. They did already defile Mickey Mouse. So
yeah, man, it's I don't know. One thing I will say for sure is something that you predicted years ago, which is that when the internet is filled with AI, we will perhaps finally be free of it.
Yeah,
I think is literally happening before our eyes.
I've already subtly changing my habits of using it, because it's like there's certain things that I don't expect to be worthwhile anymore, so I don't go there.
Why would you engage with people on social media anymore when 50% or more of them are not human beings? Like, why would you do that?
No point in reading the comment threads in many situations.
Yep.
Many like YouTube types of YouTube video, I'm just like, that's going to be AI spam. So you just change your habits. Yeah.
I feel so bad when my wife sends me reels of adorable things that she's found on Instagram, and I have to be like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's not real.
Did the dog save the baby from the from the river again? Yeah.
If you see an animal do something either heroic or adorable, it's not real. I'm sorry. Those bunnies were not jumping on that trampoline. I'm sorry. They weren't doing it. But that's like, I think that's just going to be reality. And is that a reality I am jazzed to live in? Not particularly, but again, we have to deal with the cards we're dealt.
I'm half jazzed about the idea that we're all not going to be on our phones anymore, because it's pointless, because it's just,
I agree with that. And I think it does make human connection more important. I mean, one thing that I think this is kind of a complete tangent, but the younger generation are going back to movie theaters in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. Like this industry is in a very turbulent time, and I think people in the industry are very understandably scared about what things are going to look like, especially, we talk about Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers, and who knows how that's going to all shake out. That's terrifying. But young people are going to the movies because young people are valuing experiences and reactions in the world again, because the internet has become an unusable cesspool. And perhaps, I mean, you always said the way we kill social media is the way we break our addiction to social media is by making it unusable, and we're there. We're essentially there.
Yeah, right. That was my whole prediction, was that we would eventually be free of social media, because it would be completely taken over by bots, and it's on its way. So
you got us talking about AI again, Bent Westward, and that always is a long conversation. I hope that answers your question. All of the above, but also, what can you do?
Yeah, and maybe something good will come out of it. We'll see.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Amaranth Phantom says, you read the relevant Henry James stories before Bly. Are you going to read the relevant books of the Bible before Midnight Mass? I, for one, am looking forward to the lively eschatological debate of preterism versus pre-millennial dispensationalism before the final episode. No. And the reason is, I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'd also have to read the discourses in the Catholic, literature and doctrine on those topics too,
Jesus.
Right?
Yeah. I look, let's be clear here. Neither of us is an expert of the Bible. Our experience in Catholicism is mostly related to growing up in it, and that's about it. Which is a lot. That's not nothing. But no, I really have no interest in. I think there's value in reading the Bible, as it is one of the most read books on our planet. That there's value in that in and of itself. I don't know if there's specific value for you and me to record multiple episodes of a podcast analyzing the Bible. That seems like a recipe for disaster.
I agree. I do, I'm open to the idea, though, that Mike Flanagan might be kind of like explicitly engaging in a theological context that we're not quite fully aware of. Like, there are layers on which it's like, look, as lapsed Catholics, I get what he's going for in a general sense, but maybe there are layers we're missing, and I'm open-minded to that. So it'd be cool to find out.
I mean, also Catholicism is such a different thing to different people depending on so many factors, right? Like, I think Flanagan was raised in a very traditional, conservative Catholic upbringing. My upbringing was very much informed by Vatican II. Like, my mother's view on Catholicism was very modern. I'll say that. And very much in that Vatican II, and like the idea that like she went to Catholic school as a kid and grew up like being taught primarily by nuns who were nuns, but also like women that thought the church is not giving them the voice and the power that they needed, and teaching the young girls that were going to this Catholic school to empower themselves and speak out, and like doing like stuff that maybe if like the diocese learned about, they would probably be pissed off at these nuns for doing, but they did them, and it equipped my mother with a very, very liberal sense of Catholicism, and so that was passed down to us in a way that a lot of people didn't experience as well. Like I remember the Catholic church that I went to was like very specifically trying to do things differently. Like it to the point where our priest eventually left the church because he fell in love with the woman and wanted to get married. So he was a very different kind of Catholic priest as well. And the priest that came in after him took one look at our church, which was not the very traditional cross-shaped church, was actually a circle with the altar in the middle, because he thought we were a community, and he said no. Mm-hmm. And we left that building and built a whole new building just so it could be a cross again, which is just, if that is not a perfect visualization of what is wrong with the Catholic Church, I don't know what is, because that's spent millions of dollars building a new building just because the priest has to be higher than everyone else. Yeah. And at the front, not in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's funny. That's great.
That's what God wants. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. All right. You got us talking about religion and AI.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can work AI into Midnight Mass, those episodes will be 6 hours long.
That's don't tempt me. Oh, okay. Shrubby Fire 1729 says, it feels like Kingslingers just ended and this show just began, but we're already at the halfway point of the planned schedule. Mm-hmm. Do you have any plans to continue doing long-form shows like these after Flanagan's Wake? And have you thought at all about what the next ones might look like? Any potential authors or directors whose works you'd maybe like to cover in the future?
The first answer is an easy one, which is yes. We're definitely still going to continue to do podcasts after this one's done. Although we've already mentioned that done with Flanagan's Wake is kind of a little bit different than like done with The Dark Tower was, right?
Yeah.
I think we have some ideas of some stuff we'd like to cover. I don't think we're ready to say anything quite yet. But it's going to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Lost.
And Lost just like alternating, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think we're at the point in this project where I'm not mentally prepared to talk about the next project or think about it even.
Yeah. I will say it is rather shocking to me when I like sat down to plan for this episode and then realized that, but we're going to like be at the point where we have to start thinking about that in like 6 months.
Yeah.
Which doesn't feel real.
No, that's terrible. But no, we'll figure something out. We will.
Yeah. I think there was one more.
Oh yeah, there's one more question. After Kingslingers, have I, Matt, read any Stephen King on my own? Didn't I?
Not on your own, I don't believe so. We did it for book club.
Yeah, we did it for book club. I think, yeah, basically it was like I wanted an excuse to read. I think it was from a Buick 8.
Correct.
And so we managed to read that on the book club. And then, of course, we read Dr. Sleep for this podcast.
And Gerald's game.
Yeah, and Gerald's game. So the answer is no, actually. Which I don't feel too bad about because I feel like the whole point of Kingslingers was me getting to read all of King's best, according to Scott. So
don't say that because people will attack me.
Yeah. Sorry. Just, I don't know. If you want to suggest books to me that I haven't read, but go for it.
Yeah, I think it's also like we have this never-ending well we can return to every time you feel like reading Stephen King again, that we can, like, if I put this on the poll for the book club, it's going to win, and then we can talk about a Stephen King book, right? So I'm not saying that's why you made the decision not to read anything outside of the shows, but it's not.
Yeah, it's a thought in the back of my head for sure. Yeah. They also ask, what is my PhD in? My PhD is in petroleum engineering.
How do you engineer that petrol? That's why on the Doofcast we once had Learning with Matt, where Matt explained to me how an oil well works, because I did not understand it.
We talk about oil wells. We talk about where the oil is underground sometimes.
Did you guys know that there's not just like a big pool under the ground that has oil in it?
That's right, Scott.
It's in the rock. This
is
something Matt taught me. I didn't know this.
It's soaked into the rock, like when you pour water into a bucket full of sand. It's between the grains of the rock.
But I can't squeeze rock and make oil come out.
You can. You can if you're squeezing on it with 8,000 feet of rock.
Touché.
That's how that works. Rock is spongy when you have 8,000 feet of rock on top of it. Yeah.
So what you're saying is anything can be a sponge if you're strong enough.
Exactly. That's physically true.
I love that you're a doctor. I sometimes forget it, and then I have a podcast with Kim, and she calls you Dr. Freeman because she has been just ingrained in her that she has to refer to all PhDs as doctor, or they yell at you.
It's very funny because you work hard for your PhD and you like fantasize about the day when you'll be called doctor, and then as soon as it happens, you realize it's incredibly cringe, and you never want it to happen. but thank you.
I'll never forget that one time you were on an airplane and there's an emergency and someone says, "Is there a doctor on the flight?"
Right.
And you stand up, yes, and they're like, "Where's the oil?" And you're like, "Ha ha! I can do this one."
You have a whiteboard.
All right, we have Doofan 2025 who says, year-end easy one. Can each of you recommend a book, TV show, or movie that you really enjoyed that might have flown under the radar of your listeners? Maybe something that didn't make it into any of your podcasts. Matt?
Well, 99% of what what I see or read ends up on a podcast is the truth there. I did finish so normally I don't feel compelled to finish the series that we start reading for book club. Mm-hmm. The exception is that we read the first Red Rising book a couple months ago, and I have somehow found the time to finish the second two books in that trilogy in the last few weeks because it just really hooked me and worked on me beautifully. So, I mean, we did talk about the first Red Rising book on the book club podcast over on the Doofcast, but the other two are, it's I'm not going to say they're like, the highest form of literature. They're just like really excellently done entertainment that hooked me and just kept me on the ride the entire way through. And the characters, I cared about the characters is one of the greatest compliments that I can pay a work of art for me personally. That's just what I go to fiction for. And I just really cared about these characters and had to see how things turned out for them. So the Red Rising books, and that's maybe somewhat recency bias, but I really enjoyed those.
Cool. I'm trying to think. of something that's like I didn't do a show on, but is not big, not so big that everyone's already heard of it. Like we already talked about Wake Up Dead Man, which is a movie I think you watched as well, the Knives Out film. But I feel like everybody's heard of that. Pluribus. Maybe people have heard of that. It's the Apple TV show by Vince Gilligan. It is excellent. I haven't finished the season yet, so still in the middle of it, but it is without a doubt one of my favorite things I've watched on television this year, a year filled with absolutely phenomenal television. Andor is currently at the top of my list on TV, but it's coming for it. It's giving it a run for its money. So I've really enjoyed Pluribus a whole lot. A movie. So here, my problem with movies right now is I am so incredibly behind on all of the big movie releases of the year. A lot of the Oscar release ones I haven't seen near as many as I want to, but I have vacation coming up and I'm gonna watch a lot of movies. I have 2 days in 2 weeks that my kids will both be at daycare because daycare is still open, but I am off of work and I plan to watch a ridiculous amount of movies in those 2 days. I haven't seen Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein yet. I really want to see that. I haven't seen Jay Kelly, which is on Netflix. I haven't seen Marty Supreme. The Avatar movie comes out. I mean, that's not one that I would put on this list because everyone knows about the Avatar movie. But I haven't seen Train Dreams, which is a movie probably no one's heard of, but I've heard incredible things about that I really, really want to see. So I can't recommend a movie because I just haven't seen enough movies.
I think we got something like a recommendation in there somewhere.
I watched F1 when it came on Apple because my wife wanted to, and that was pretty good.
Cool.
I felt like I missed something by not seeing it on a giant screen because it's the guy who directed Top Gun Maverick doing that, but with race cars.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I somehow don't even know it. I had to look this up, and now I'm looking at the pictures, and I'm like, Brad Pitt. Okay.
It's Bradley Pitt racing cars.
Never heard of it. What a world we're in where there's a giant Brad Pitt movie, and I haven't heard of it.
It made a lot of money. Yeah. Where were you?
I don't know.
I will say, pretty good movie. I don't know how you make Brad Pitt less charismatic than this movie did, but
okay,
it's an accomplishment. I just felt like he was like a void of charisma. He was just, I did not think he was particularly good in the movie.
Fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know how you do that. It's Brad Pitt. What happened? I don't know. Cool. Okay. We got one more question.
All right. One question. Mel Supernatural says, how did Matt and Scott meet?
Bumble.
Be honest, Scott. It was Tinder.
College.
We lived on the same hallway in the dorm, and I don't know that we're 100% sure on when, the exact what the meet cute was, where we literally met, but we were on the same hallway and we interacted. It was a pretty tight knit hallway, actually. Kind of everyone in the hallway was friends.
Yeah.
So
we lived in a private dorm at A&M, and the reason I was there is because I roommated with our friend Michael, who I love him to death. He's a great person. He's a very particular person when it comes to living situation and how he likes things, and so he did not want to live in a dorm. Where you share the same space. So we lived in a private dorm where you had your own room and there was not a communal bathroom and stuff like that. And Matt also lived there.
Yes. And it was great, actually.
It was.
We had a great time. Yeah.
I had a great time. Except for meeting our first racists.
Yeah.
I mean, not really meeting her, but first outspoken, if you ask them if you're racist, they would say yes.
Yeah.
I do not like black people.
What a wild.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Learning so much at college.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. What a great way to end the mailbag section.
Yeah.
All right. thank you, everyone, for sending those questions in. We went long on this episode, as we usually do, even though it's supposed to be the short one. But I have so much fun chatting and just answering y'all's questions. So thanks for that. All right, no discussion question going into next couple of weeks because we're going to be starting with Midnight Mass, and we'll deal with that as we go. And that is the next episode. We are taking next week off as a reminder. We'll be back on the 8th of January to talk all about the first episode of Midnight Mass. I believe that episode is called Genesis. So we'll be reading that book of the Bible.
Right.
And talking about Midnight Mass.
Yeah, in our own time, obviously. Remember, you can reach us via email at flanagan'swakepod@gmail.com, on X at flanagan'swake19, and on the subreddit at reddit.com/r/doofmedia. Don't forget, every episode can be found on YouTube and Spotify in video format. And if you're watching on those platforms, please leave us a comment letting us know what you think, or just sharing your thoughts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And please head over to our merch store, doofmedia.myshopify.com, for all of your merchandise needs. We got a bunch of cool things over there. We already have a Midnight Mass mug. I don't have it on me, but it's the Crocodile and Cat Cafe, which if you haven't watched Midnight Mass, that will become a joke that you understand very, very quickly. So check that out. There's all kinds of cool stuff over there. doofmedia.myshopify.com.
And if you like any of our shows and you want to support us, then please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/doofmedia. A lot of great bonus content over there. And we're going to kind of get back into the swing of regularly producing it in January, I think, once Welcome to Derry wraps up.
Yeah, we've got one more episode of that, our overview episode next week, and then I will be free of dairy for hopefully 27 years. We'll see.
We'll see.
Of course, if you cannot afford to donate to the podcast, we totally understand. As we move into Midnight Mass, people talked about how is the show doing. The show's doing very good, but that is because of people helping us out. So please continue to share the show, talk about the show, and review us online. We actually do, Matt, have a new review to read this week. We have a 5-star review from Thrill Mathy, who says, "My new favorite podcast. I followed my fellow Kingslingers over here to Flanagan's Wake, and man, I'm glad I did. When I found out Flanagan was going to be at the center of Matt and Scott's next podcast, I was elated. While I've not seen all of Flanagan's work, I was familiar with his Netflix projects and couldn't wait to follow my two favorite hosts into their deep dive of his cinematic universe." Oh. I'm so cinematic universe out. I don't like it being called that, but sure. I look forward to every new episode, and it's made me look at some of my favorite series with a new light. I recommend this podcast to anyone that I know is a fan of the great Mike Flanagan. I give them all the stars. Well, thank you, Thrill. I give you all the stars. That was very nice of you.
A cupful of them.
Yeah. Ooh. Well done, sir. I'm not even going to say anything else. We're just going to leave on that.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year. We will see you in 2026, and we'll see you in the Bible.
That's right.
With Midnight Mass. Until then, rest in peace, Mr. Flanagan.